Hello and welcome to ITIM number 13. I'm your host Tim Sarley, and today we're here with Scott Butler, owner-operator of Stockdale Leggo, head instructor of Gracie JiuJitsu and 5th Dan Karate Instructor in Numurkah. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks, Tim.
So we just wanted to interview Scott because he's been in business with Stockdale Leggo now for 24 odd years and has so much value to add for those in the small to medium business world. So if you're in that space, make sure you stick around and watch the whole interview because you'll get a lot of value out of this one. So before we get into the interview, Scott, just give us, for those of you who don't know who you are, give us a bit of insight to yourself.
So I've been in real estate for 26 years now. I'm pretty active with my sports in karate and jiu-jitsu. I like to snow ski, I like to rock climb, and obviously all of those things my family likes to do as well, so spending time with my family is probably the number one priority right now.
Yeah. Now you touched on family. You've got 3 little kids under 10.
I do.
And how do you fit in business, karate, jiu-jitsu and other recreation things that you do and manage to keep your wife and family happy?
I think the number one thing is that you've got to have a strong mind and a willingness to learn, a willingness to change, a willingness to reinvent yourself every day, and just never give up. I always sort of think that if you bite off more than you can chew, and you can just chew like hell, that's one of the ways that I get around things. But I guess the most important thing for me now is just having a significant other that also shares those same family values, understands or appreciate the work and the passions of interests as well. So, so I spoilt my wife and make sure that she's incredibly happy, and then in turn that makes me happy.
You often talk to me about having balance and having the family comes first, and then work, and then recreation. Mm-hmm. And you say that to keep yourself happy up the top and keep the family happy, you need to have the recreation or have that outlet, and that full circle goes.
It all interconnects, exactly right. So if your family life is not happy, then that's going to affect your work, and virtually you'll have no motivation to do your interests. So you've got to be paying that respect to your significant other on a daily basis. Telling your wife you love her, and buying her flowers from time to time, not all the time. Because
I hope she's listening to this.
Yeah, no, she probably will be. Spoiling her and going away on different types of trips and so forth. But paying attention to what she wants and what she requires as well. So that's an input. Do I get it right 100% of the time? No, of course not. You don't. Yeah. But you try. And you endeavour to make it a very good relationship, which will in turn keep everything else motoring along.
Yeah, yep. Now you've been in you said real estate for 26 years, but you've been running your own business for 24 years. How do you keep your staff motivated to go along with your visions that you've got for the business and where you're heading, and how do you keep the staff all moving together in that true north direction?
Well, I think you've got to treat everybody as a human being, and I think you've got to understand their situation as well, their requirements, their hassles, their struggles that they're going through. If you don't listen to what they are going through, well then they're not going to want to be a part of your vision and your goals and so forth. So if somebody requires time off, or somebody needs that break, or somebody's going through a relationship problem or a family issue, I like to have an open door policy to sit down there and just listen to what they have to say, and try and help as best as I possibly can. And help might be just to be a sounding board. Help might be some time off. Help might be some giving them a certificate to go and get their hair done, or whatever the case may be. But there's areas that you can add benefit to people's lives just by listening.
How have you changed over the years as a manager? What's been the biggest lesson you've learned when it comes to staff like that? What have you changed?
So in about 2002, I spent about $26,000 in that year on going to seminars all over the place, reading books, attending conferences, and just bettering myself to try and get up to a higher caliber of manager. I learned all about KPIs and key performance indicators. I learned all about managing staff and motivating people. So I came back and I was constantly cracking the whip and trying to get people to do the things that I wanted them to do to have a successful office. And I went through a lot of staff. People turned over, people didn't stick around, people didn't want to get that constant negativity on a daily basis or be monitored on a daily basis. But it took me a while, because I'm a slow learner, to realise that the best thing that you can do is be a friend to somebody, still manage them and still be quite strong and strict and consistent in the direction that you want the company to go, but be a good sounding board and be a good listener for somebody. And that's how you get the best out of people. That's how you get the best out of people.
Yeah.
It's just by being a good listener and having a bit of a heart, put a bit of heart into it.
Okay. Just on, you touched on where you like to have the business going. I know you fairly well, and I know you like to set goals 2, 3, 4, and 5 years ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And often you'll say to me, Tim, we're doing this in 2022, and I haven't even thought past next year yet. And
Mm-hmm.
but how do you set the goal so far down the track in a macro level, but then from a micro level on a day-to-day basis work towards that goal and bite like hell, as you said?
So I write my goals in January, and then I laminate them and put them on the shower screen so that I can see them every day. I learned a while ago that the difference between millionaires and billionaires is that millionaires look at their goals every day and billionaires look at their goals twice a day. Now, I'm not saying I want to be a billionaire, but what I do understand is that financial independence does create a certain level of unrestricted access to your family and your significant other. So being debt-free or being close to debt-free as you possibly can, and having a retirement where it's self-funding, that's obviously the direction that I made my mind up a long time ago that I wanted to be heading towards. And that is something that I think that needs to be have goals behind it. It needs to have achievable goals, but deadlines of when you're going to be able to achieve those goals. So the only way you're going to be able to reach those is if you look at them on a daily basis. Everybody has to have a shower every day, laminate them, put them on the screen and look at them every day. So I have my family goals, I have my sporting goals, I have my business goals, and I have my KPIs for my staff as well. So they're all written down there. I have the amount of the properties that I wanted to add to my portfolio this year, next year, and 5 years down the track. I've got it written down as far as when I see myself heading towards retirement, which is no time soon, because I still love real estate. But areas of sporting achievements that I want to achieve as well. So a long time ago, and rock climbing has just sort of come back on the scene a little bit more lately as my kids have gotten older. But in many years ago, I climbed El Capitan, which was a massive 1,000-meter cliff in Yosemite National Park, California. And I saw a documentary with this guy who free soloed it, Alexander Hagman, I think his name is, or Hungberg. I'm getting his surname wrong. I'm sorry, but and he free soloed it and brought back all the memories of climbing that rock. But more importantly, it brought back all the goals that I set 3 years prior to climbing that rock that I needed to achieve in order to get to the level of being able to climb El Capitan. Because El Capitan in the climbing world is like Everest to someone who's doing mountaineering.
Yep.
And but that was a long time ago, and I'm not really that climber anymore. I'm not that good.
But the point of it is you set your goal 3 years prior to that,
Absolutely.
and then work towards getting your skills up to the level to being able to attempt that climb.
Every day,
Yeah.
every day I was working on a certain type of technique. I was getting gear developed. I was understanding where I needed to be in relation to crack climbing, face climbing, toe jamming, understanding all the different techniques, which would probably bore you, and improving my, or identifying my strengths and identifying my weaknesses, and improving my weaknesses so that they became my strengths, so that I could complete the climb. So there's 32 pitches, and each pitch offers a different variety of different types of climbing. So that's, if you relate that back to business, business, we have a multitude of different aspects, as far as administration, as far as marketing, as far as sales, as far as understanding your profit and loss and your balance sheet, understanding all of those things in relation to keeping the door open, staff management, recruiting, hiring, firing. I could name probably about 100 areas within a business that equally have to be at a certain level for your business to perform. And if you take away one of those components, it's like a thread in carpet. Whilst the carpet is completely threaded, the structural integrity of the carpet is good. You take away a couple of those threads, the structural integrity of that carpet is now compromised, and that's business. So we've got to be constantly working at our areas in our business in order to try and make sure that functions at a high level. So doing a self-audit on yourself, but doing a business audit in relation to where your strengths and weaknesses are, and work on those weaknesses, or hire somebody that can step in and fulfill that role. And I do that quite a bit, because there's areas in my business that I have identified that I'm not great at. So I make sure that I find great people that can fulfill those roles.
Good tip. Just finishing off, what's your number one tip that you can offer to either small businesses or medium-term sized businesses looking to take that next step, to grow from, they might be going okay at the moment, but they just want to take that next step? What's a quick little tip?
Everybody wants their business to succeed, but not everybody is willing to put in the absolute work in order to make it succeed. And it's a little bit like going up to a fireplace and saying, give me heat and then I'll add the wood. In business, you've got to add the wood. What's the wood? Education, understanding what your marketplace is, and understanding what are the courses that you need to undertake in order to get your business up to a higher level. Or you may already have the ideas and you may have the concepts of what makes a successful business, but there's areas of administration or marketing that you lack. Find the people that can fulfill those roles. And if you can't afford to put on full-time staff, look at part-time staff. Look at places like iFreelance and get people remotely that can do some of the jobs for you. It's a changing world out there, and I went to a seminar a couple of years ago where a guy from California was talking, and he said within 15 years that 80% of our known jobs will be defunct. They won't be the traditional jobs that we see today. So it's a changing environment. And I guess you've got to ask yourself, do we want to change with the environment in the world and adapt and be a fast mover if things, or do we want to be left behind? I read a book called Who Moved My Cheese by, I think it was by Michael Spencer, and it talked about the mouse that constantly went out looking for other cheese, while the other mouse stayed put and just ate the cheese and got fat, and slowly died when the cheese is gone. Where the other one, he found new opportunities and kept going on. And I think that's what we've got to do in business.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite books. I read that to my kids, to tell them that they must keep on looking for open up new doors and see what else is out there.
Yeah, constantly.
Mate, thanks for your time. I know we could sit here and talk about stuff all day long, but we just can't do that, unfortunately. And
pleasure, Tim. I think what you're doing is a fantastic opportunity for people to just see what's happening around Shepparton with local business owners. But I think that a lot of business owners have got some great ideas, and I've certainly learned some great ideas from the interviews that you've had from other people.
Yeah.
And you've got to go in there with that attitude, because once you start thinking that you know it all,
Get overtaken quite
you get
quickly.
overtaken very quickly.
Yeah. All right, mate. Thank you. Make sure you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.